Hi, I'm Garbreak1, and this is Midgardia's cool crowdfunding show. I'm here today with Banana Chan. How's it going?
Hello. Thanks again for having me.
I'm always glad to have you. So, you're here to tell us about Knockoff today, so why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Knockoff is the next book in a trilogy of books that I'm working on called the Mephistopheles trilogy. And so the first one was forgery. We talked about forgery. It's like an art thing. It's like painting. It's about an art forger who, gets commissioned to recreate a cursed painting. For Knockoff, it's a similar sort of structure where you are a fast fashion designer whose name is Marcos, and you've been working in the industry for quite some time. But this time around, you're preparing for a New York Fashion Week. So New York Fashion Week is coming up soon, and you're trying to figure out like what is this thing that you're going to make. Luckily, you attend an estate sale, and at the estate sale, you find a sketchbook, and within that sketchbook, you find a drawing of a croquis, which is basically just like a model, a dress, and you discover this cursed this cursed design, and you recreate it, and all of your wildest dreams come true as a result of creating this cursed dress, and weird things start happening around you. So very similar to forgery, but this time we're doing fashion.
It's interesting because cursed art is pretty common. You read a book that makes you go a little crazy, uh, all that kind of stuff, and also the Necronomicon. Um,
Mhm.
you've got cursed art all over the place. Evil comic books occasionally, cursed films. The Ring. Cursed fashion, not as common. Although I guess if you look
Yes.
into the history of like artifacts and stuff, maybe, but that's jewelry. It's.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's I took a lot of influence from a lot of different movies that are out there. So In Fabric was one of them. In Fabric is I believe it's A24, but it's an A20. I'm going to say it's A24. Correct me if I'm wrong, people in the internet, but it is a horror movie where someone discovers a cursed dress, buys the dress. It's like a red dress, and weird stuff starts to happen. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a very good movie. I enjoyed it a lot. It has some comedic elements to it. And yeah, it's really interesting. It plays along with like the idea of race. It plays with the idea of gender. The main character is a black woman, and so she's like, trying to figure out like, what's going on with this weird dress that's making me feel really good, but weird stuff keeps happening. So that was definitely like an inspiration point for this game.
Right on. Okay, so not quite as uncommon as I thought. There is some out there, but I do still appreciate it. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah, yeah. Cursed objects in general, cursed artifacts are very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's nothing I love more than something that can pass down misery through the generations.
Right, exactly. Do you have any experience with cursed artifacts or cursed objects in your life?
Not really, honestly. I mean, it's the house I live in with like its various cracks in the foundation and stuff. But other than that, no.
Oh, it's just a regular house.
It's just a normal old house.
Yeah,
Creaks when the wind blows, roof leaks
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
But blood does not come out of the walls, so we've got that
Oh,
going for us.
oh, that's great. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
So you're doing great.
yeah. We sprung for the bloodless walls when we did some renovations. So that was a nice change.
Good, good, good. I'm glad you got that change in. But yeah, I like the idea of like a curse or a haunting or something like that. Like, something that's like that we perceive as like, haunting or something like that. It's actually like, like a lot of trauma that's been passed down from generation to generation. So like the way that it's framed in both forgery and knockoff, it's generational trauma. So generational trauma is like the haunted thing, but that's what like the actual metaphor for it is. But like in the game, it manifests as an object. So painting, dress. And then the third one is going to be about music. So it's going to be a cursed song that you get to play.
Love. I enjoy cursed music. I watched a lot of Threshold back in the day, which had the cursed audio file, which
Nice.
ended up being remixed by a DJ at a rave and caused a horrible outbreak of lettuce with teeth, if I recall correctly. Weird
Love it.
show. Yeah. It's I think it's very up your alley actually, now that I'm talking
No,
about it. Um
yeah, I gotta see this.
yeah, no, it's got Peter Dinklage in it too, so can't go wrong.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yes, so what's the actual gameplay experience of Knockoff?
Yeah, so all three games use similar mechanics. So, Knockoff is similar to Forgery in that you are going through a lot of solo journaling prompts and you're going through this book. It's like a story that's already been, that's going through, that you're being taken. Can you hear the knocking? I can't
A little
tell.
bit, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's my cursed house. I'm sorry. My haunted house is making a lot of noises. You're going to hear a lot of that. Definitely not construction, definitely a curse.
Yep.
Um, but the mechanics for knockoff are very similar to forgery, where you're going through different chapters. It's choose your own adventure, and when you hit a point where there's going to be a decision being made, you actually go to the end of the book and you choose from three different types of fabrics. So there's woven, non-woven, and what was the last one? I gotta look this up because I'm not a fashion designer. I'm not like a fashion person. Oh, woven, non-woven, and knit. So those it's three different types of fabrics that you can choose from. And there is like a croquis that you're basically cutting and pasting these fabrics from and pasting them over the croquis. So you have something that's like a template. It's as simple as the paint by numbers, but this time you're cutting and pasting.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it gets a little wild, I think. It's fun.
I I don't want to gush too much, but I do really appreciate that a lot of TTRPG designers tend to get sort of trapped in the TTRPG space and just mostly experience other TTRPGs and iterate on those ideas. And I really do respect and appreciate that you draw a lot of influence from outside that space. Like I know you go to fashion shows and stuff like that. You've got stuff going on. You bring it back to the TTRPG space, and I do think that is really wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was actually going through my old photos because I'm taking a lot of these old photos, old graphics, and collaging them together to create the chapter headers for the game itself. So I'm doing like a lot of the graphic design elements for it. But I was looking at some old photos and I didn't realize I had been going to Fashion Week events since I think it was like 20, let's see, actually, I think it was 2008.
Hot
Yeah,
damn.
I think it was like 2008. Yeah, so I didn't realize I'd been going to those for so long. And yeah, I just have like a whole lot of, I have a treasure trove of just like a bunch of photos. I just need to parse through them and, you know, make some sense of them.
That's sick.
So
Yeah,
it's very,
I've used some of my like crappy cell phone photography for overlays on this channel before. Like an old
yeah,
Cyberpunk game that we did, the background thing is actually a photo I took like in the middle of the night of a busy road near my house and stuff like that.
yes, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Just like, using whatever you have and creating something cool out of it. I love that.
Yeah, big fan. Also, speaking of graphic design, the cover is once again sick, by the way.
Thank you. Same illustrator from Forgery, Alex Ekman Lon. He did an amazing job. Like he always does an amazing job. If you like look at his other art, like his book art, his the covers that he does for like other books, comic books, and just art in general, they're all so gory but beautiful. It's just like, teeth upon teeth and, flesh, and it's all so ornate. Like it feels very ornate. So yeah, I love working with him. He's incredible.
gonna say teeth and flesh are two of my favorite things, but that doesn't sound right, and I don't want that clipped of me saying it in a sincere tone. So you're getting this.
I mean,
But yeah,
I like I appreciate where that's going. I know exactly what you mean, so
yeah, but yeah. No, it is really cool. Hey, is there any other aspects of knockoff that you'd like to talk about while we're here?
Yeah, so, the people that I worked with on this, I'm actually gonna pull it up on my other computer on the side, which is, like, just off to the side. So if I'm looking off to the side, it's because I'm looking through all the folks
Uh,
that I've worked with. Sorry,
oh,
there's a
I've just got a billion screens, as you can see in the
okay.
reflections behind me.
So like I said, the cover is it was illustrated by Alex Ekman Lawn. The interior, I'm actually working on a lot of the graphics for that, for the chapter headers. But I'm also working with one of my friends from school, from art school. His name's Robert Richburg. We had worked together before in the past on like a lot of different illustrations, and still lives in New York, and so I get to be like, hey, you're still there. Can you help me please? Because I don't have a lot of like, up to date graphics. I don't have a lot of up to date like, current photography. So like, let's can we work together here? And so Robert, incredible. He did a lot of illustrations actually for Junksha. He did some illustrations for Darkness at the Brink of Ohio, and now he's working on this with me as well. Um, Also used a lot of my old friends as models. So I'm just like looking through all the photos and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use some of you as models if that's okay. But in terms of like the book itself, aside from the art, I worked with two cultural consultants, so Lexi McQueen and Janaea Kemper. Worked with both of them because the main character in the story is a gay Black man, and because that's out of my own experience, I've been working with like a lot of different folks just to like get their experiences to make sure that this feels authentic while still telling a story that is true to me. So a lot of Marcos, even though, we're not the same person, his experience will be different from my experience. A lot of the experiences, some of the experiences that Marcos has also relates back to my own personal like family and upbringing. And so there are similarities there when I'm trying to inject like myself into this character. But again, because Marcos is, he's a gay Black man, I had to go out and chat with like a lot of folks just to make sure that I get a good, well-rounded character, like a very three-dimensional character. And so I did a lot of research based on what Jonea sent over on the fashion scene. So the specifically like the Black fashion scene, and just like artists and fashion designers such as Dapper Dan, who had this incredible quote, which was and this is from a recent interview where he did it with ABC, and someone was like talking to him about like knockoffs, and he was like, you know my work isn't knockoffs. If anything, I made like knock-ups. I don't have the direct quote, but it was something like that. And so I was like, that's such a good quote. So using that for the book as well, added a little bit into the book, making sure that everyone gets credited and everything is all the inspiration points are there, and there are all these like different fashion designers that Janae had recommended, and so I was just like reading through all of it, went back and forth on like who are some folks to look out for, who are some folks that have like a lot of interesting interviews, a lot of like relevant designs, what was their thought process, and taking that thought process and making it sort of like building it into Marcos's character. And so, obviously other maybe not obviously, but other fashion influences were from Willie Smith. Some of the chapter headers I used designs from Willie Smith. I used fashion designs from, I believe it was a dress from Anne Lowe. So Anne Lowe did, she was like a Black fashion designer for, I believe, Jackie Kennedy. She like designed a dress for Jackie Kennedy. It was like a floral dress. And so did a lot of collaging, using whatever public domain images I can find. Stephen Burrows is an influence, Arthur McGee, and right now I'm reading through The Chiffon Trenches by Andre Leon Talley, and it's just really interesting to get a lot of people's thought processes, so that way we can build like a three-dimensional character.
Right. Yeah. Your research process is a lot more intensive than mine, and I appreciate it. I Granted, I just go, hey, here's some elves, but you know,
I mean, it's still it's still a lot of research that you put
yeah,
into
no,
fantasy, right? Because it's still you're trying to tell stories that impact people.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, feelings, thoughts, those kinds of things that usually comes from reality.
yeah.
So yeah.
That does sound like you have put a ton of work into this, though, which I do appreciate.
It's all Janaea. Honestly, messaging her and Lexi, it was just so helpful. And when I first started this project, I chatted with Elise Resendez a little bit, got her sort of background because she has a background in I believe New York Fashion Week, just working behind the scenes, production wise. And so we chatted a little bit about what's it like working behind the scenes at New York Fashion Week. And then this year I actually went to New York Fashion Week, discovered that there are different types of different companies that do Fashion Week, right? So it's not necessarily just one. That's the main one. The main one that we usually think of has center stage somewhere. So I believe the last one I went to prior to this one was at where they have the operas and stuff in New York. It was I don't know, one of the big theaters. But anyway, it's you have your big ones that have all the big names going to it. You have the weirder shows that are off to the side. And then you have more independent stuff that's trying to be more commercial, doing their own thing as well. So it's all sort of scattered. It's all very different. There are all these different worlds that are in fashion, similar to the film and television industry, similar to, the tabletop industry, where there are all these different pockets of industries. It's not just one TTRPG industry. It's, you have WotC, you have Pelgrane, you have all these different areas, right? And so it sort of works like that, which is really interesting to see.
Right. I guess that makes sense because yeah, like you said, the TTRP industry does have its own. I don't want to say cliques, but like areas of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the OSR scene, all that overlap, but you probably aren't going to find a some OSR stuff at like a very narrativist kind of convention. Maybe a little,
Right.
but that is an excellent
Yeah.
analogy. I appreciate it. Bringing it back
Yeah.
to the target audience of the channel.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, no, I we're here to listen to you talk about cool stuff. That what's the point of an interview if we don't learn anything?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely I think anything that has a creative process behind it, or creative people behind it, creative people as in people who make things, right? There are always going to be these different areas of interest, and different companies and different places where people try to make the things, but they make it their own. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Every medium is too large for like one overarching like tent to fit everybody, except maybe
Right.
anime. But the opinions are divided on that one. Uh, at least here in the Anglosphere.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh, Sorry, I'm not gonna say anything bad about all the like mobile games that are taking up panel space at my local conventions these days. Not saying anything bad about them. I'm not bitter.
Mm, I'm not gonna say anything
Yep.
either.
So on the topic of like horror as metaphor, is the cursed the cursed design, is that a metaphor for the general cursedness, environmental damage, and waste of the fast fashion industry?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of, well, it's maybe three things. So the fast fashion industry definitely is like, a part of the horror. It's also talking about, generational trauma, generational, the things that we carry with us when we have all this trauma passed down to us from our family. And so that's another piece of the story. And then I would say the third piece of it, the third horror element of it is the idea that you constantly have to feel like you're creating something, otherwise you're not original. So, the artist sort of like mentality of like, I have to make something really original. I have to make something that's like, that's completely different, and it has to, shock all these people. Otherwise, I'm not relevant anymore, or I'm not good enough, or, whatever. Insert like terrible thing here, right? Or like negative self-talk here. Uh, and I think in Marcos's case, because he works in fast fashion, but he has the FIT background. He like, went to the Fashion Institute of Technology. He is very familiar with fashion as a whole, is extremely knowledgeable, but still can't get that big break of like being an independent house, or for TTRPG folks, independent studio, independent designer, whatever it is. Um, and he's sort of stuck in working in corporate. He's stuck working with like a fast fashion company, polluting the environment, stealing designs from other original designers. And if he doesn't do that, then like what? He's not going to have a job. He's not going to have health insurance. He's not going to be able to keep up. And so playing on that idea of like, feeling stuck, feeling, like you can't, what else do you have, right? Like you trained so hard to get to this point, but at the end of the day, it's sort of like you're still in this space that doesn't really appreciate you either, but at least you're getting paid, and at least you're getting like health insurance, but it's like, is it worth it? So yeah, I would say that's like the third horrific part of the story.
Gonna be honest, I wasn't expecting the themes of the game about a fashion designer and cursed fashion to resonate with me, but who boy do I feel the if I'm not making things that are 100% original, I'm a hack.
Right, exactly. And I think that a lot of creatives feel that way, even though it's like, you know, I don't really think originality is that important. I think um, authenticity, and this is authenticity with an asterisk, uh, meaning authentic to oneself and one's own experience, and like, trying to tell a story that feels genuine is more important than quote unquote originality. So,
I'm not
yeah.
sure either way, honestly. Still working that out as part of my long journey as a creative.
It's hard, it's
It
tough.
is.
It's a lot of
Introspection
self-discovery.
sucks.
Yeah, right.
I introspected once, and that's what I learned. And that's enough for me.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah. Um. But yes, I really appreciate the things that you do. That's the main thrust here.
Thank you.
um.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to send a copy over once it's ready.
Pardon me.
I'd be happy to send a copy over once it's ready.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll see how bad shipping costs are then. Because who boy.
Oh, I keep forgetting that. I am gonna try and take a trip over to Canada eventually.
Hey, at least we don't have to worry about health insurance here for the most part.
That's true. That is very true. I
I
do like the sound.
I am so thankful for that every time I injure myself. But we are not going to get into the times and reasons I've been to the ER today, at least during this recording. Um, because they sign up for the Patreon, but It's not there either. Um, anyway, Banana, it is as ever great to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, and it's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, same to you. So this will be going live in about 90 days. If you click below, there's a try that again. So this project is going live on BackerKit in about 90 days from now. If you click the link down in the comments below, you can check out the BackerKit preview page for that. Click follow, and you'll be notified when it fully goes live. And you can look at the bigger version of the really cool cover art, which you should, because it's really cool. It'll look great on a shelf.
Thank you. I love it.
And once again, thanks for coming on, Banana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
I feel the same way about you.
Yay.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.